Arriving home from the craziest day, and there's no meal that we think we'd want to make. The thought of leftovers makes my stomach feel sick. Need something good, but that something isn't quick. And you didn't want to cook at home, 'cause we didn't think anything was remotely appetizing. Now we're realizing that we probably should have made a plan, 'cause this week is halfway through. We know this budget's blown now. That's when we go and eat out. This restaurant's nice, but we spend too much on food. How in the world does it cost this much for two? But now if we plan for what's in store, we can save for so much more. And now we know it's cheaper cooking at our home. 'Cause if you like the way it tastes so much, then maybe we should budget more for food. But that's insane. Let's save up for a house, a car, and probably retirement too. And when we plan to have dinner with some friends, we had to choose to go out or eat in. But we know all our favorite restaurants aren't cheap. But I'm too tired to go buy groceries. And you didn't want to cook at home, 'cause we didn't think anything was remotely appetizing. Now we're realizing that we probably should have made a plan, 'cause this week is halfway through. We know this budget's blown now. That's when we go eat out. This restaurant's nice, but we spend too much on food. And how in the world does it cost this much for two? But now if we plan for what's in store, we can save for so much more. And now we know it's cheaper cooking at our home. 'Cause if you like the way it tastes so much, then maybe we should budget more for food. But that's insane. Let's save up for a lakefront cabin and possibly a schooner too.
Once a week at least, or every time I go, happy in your aisles, I'm in my shopping zone. 'Cause you get me, you get me, you get me. Oh, Target, you're my love, you're my natural habitat. And can it be so bad if it's on the sale rack? I'm spending, I'm spending, I'm spending. And it's long gone, money I will bring. Time to realize Target is not for me. 'Cause I knew you were trouble when I walked in. So shame on me now, curse you ever-present dollar bins. 'Cause you bring me down, oh, I knew you were trouble when I walked in. So shame on me now, knew the throw pillows would do me in. Oh, my marriages will be a battleground. Oh, oh, Target always trouble. I wanna cry, I'm blowing through my cash, and that's the reason why we're drowning, we're drowning.
All right, I don't know, Kelly. Maybe we should just keep jamming to some White Up Dudes.
I was just rocking right along. Hey, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our YouTube Live Hangout on ways to cut spending and save more money. Now, before we get into it, as always, I want to make sure that everybody can hear us. I think you can, though, because you were getting the music. I could see that in the comments. But
I think it's the best audio test there is, Ben.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Well, anyway, why don't you go ahead and tell us where you're listening from anyway, because that's kind of fun to see anyway. This is the second time we've been doing this. We did this last week. So if you saw last week, content will probably be a little bit similar, but, you know, new people, new chat. So we'll see what comes
And
up.
a lot of it comes from you guys, too, sharing your tips. So that'll always be different, too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I see a lot of folks saying we can hear you. Good.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Oh, good
Danielle,
question here
Jane.
from Jocelyn. Is there a Zoom link for this? Jocelyn, this one's just going to be on YouTube and Facebook. So no Zoom link for this hangout.
Yeah. Yeah. Just right here. All right. I see Sandra in Huntsville. You here in Minneapolis. There you go.
Yeah.
We always have Minnesota folks represented here.
Yep. Oh, and I'm Kelly, by the way. I'm a workshop teacher here at YNAB, and I live in northern Wisconsin. And then Ben, make sure you tell them where you're from.
I'm a community manager here at YNAB and also teacher. And I'm from Virginia, Central Virginia area. Jack's close to me in North Carolina. Telly is in Netherlands. Awesome.
People from all over the world. So cool.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, it looks like everybody can hear us just fine. So I think we're good to go ahead and start talking about ways to save more money.
Yeah. So we thought we'd just come on here live to discuss different ways that we can save money or cut spending. We're going to cover everything from saving money on food, around the house, cars, all that kind of stuff. But I thought it would be a good idea to just kind of start broad and say that, like, when you're first trying to cut back or save more or spend less, whatever it is you're aiming for, look for those little wins to begin. Don't look for $100 to save. Instead, try to find 10 places to save $10. That tip always stuck with me when I was first starting to use YNAB, especially.
Yeah, I think that's really good because it can be really overwhelming if you're like, especially if you have big goals. But if you start small, it really makes a big difference. And also, I mean, it adds up. I think a lot of times you can be dismissive of, oh, well, if I call that cable company and maybe I'll only save $10 or something like that, maybe you don't feel like it's worth your time. But if you do a lot of that, it really adds up quick and it can make a big difference. What else? Another thing that we often talk about when we're talking about cutting spending is to question all assumptions. And that's something that really stuck with me too, is question everything. If you have a budget, go through your budget and ask yourself, do I really need to spend this much on this, or do I need this at all? Really look at every bill, expense, or area where you want to spend. And we'll get into some more specifics as we go as well.
And also, not everything we suggest would work for everyone, right? So we're questioning all of our assumptions, but doesn't mean we're changing all of our spending habits if it's not right for us. So that's important too.
I like what Conyer said. Hopefully I got your name right there. He said the snowball effect of saving, right?
That's exactly little things adding up over time. And I'm pretty sure that's Conyer because he's got a picture of a conure. So.
Oh, there you go. I don't know my birds, so like you do, Kelly.
I'm pretty sure that's a conure. All right, well, let's dive into food. Let's talk about food first, because I think it's the most notoriously overspent parts of our budgets. I think it's safe to say.
We talk to people about cutting spending every day, and this is the thing that always comes up is I started budgeting and I couldn't believe how much I spent on food, on restaurants or groceries. So this is always
and we have to eat. It's not we could just say one day, I don't want a cell phone anymore, and throw it away, and we would still be alive tomorrow. But that wouldn't work with food over time, right?
I mean, speak for yourself, Kelly. I might die without my cell phone, but
well, yes. Okay, bad example.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, so some quick wins to saving money on food. Buying things that are in season. I actually have my CSA box that I'm going to go pick up later today. And so getting things that are in season are always going to be less money because there's more of them. They're trying to get them off the shelves because there's a lot of them. They usually come locally and they're usually more delicious because they're in season as well. And so that's going to be planning your meals throughout the year based off of what's fresh right now can be a quick win for that way.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that co-op the CSA that you work with?
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I live in northern Wisconsin, and we have a wonderful CSA that it's farmers from all around the area. They contribute to it, and then you get a box with a little bit of you get meat from the farms that provide meat. You get carrots from the carrot farm. You get flowers from the flower farm, and so it's a really wonderful cooperative. Yeah, and that stands for community. Oh man, it was right on the tip of my tongue. Something share agriculture. I bet someone out there knows what CSA stands for.
And you pay monthly for it? Is that how that works?
Yeah, and you
That's
pay
cool.
for it all year, and then community supported agriculture. That's what it is.
There you go. There it is.
Yeah, and so you pay a little bit all year, and then you get a big box of vegetables during the seasons that they have them. We're approaching the last few weeks of the year here.
Nice. I
Yeah.
like that. Other small things that you can do. We talked about, trying to go for easy wins. And I think one thing is maybe just buy fewer things. It could be good in a lot of ways. Like if you normally get some snacks, maybe cut back on the amount of snacks. Might be good for everybody anyway. And then also
even the
rotate
variety,
this.
right?
Yeah, get more variety. I think that helps a lot. And maybe that could justify cutting back on it a little bit. Another thing to try is store brands. Sometimes it really makes no difference. Sometimes it does. You can kind of do a little trial and error. Sometimes, a more expensive brand is worth it, but try it out and maybe see if you get something a little cheaper.
Yellow mustard, for me, no difference. Cheese, difference.
Yes. That is a really good example. There's a big difference between the fancy cheese and the not so fancy cheese.
Back to the snack one. I follow a family on YouTube, and they do like one kind of snack for their kids per month. So it's like a family of 10. So it's a big family. And so this month the snack is pretzels. And this month the snack is carrot sticks. And so they don't have to buy 100 different snacks. They get the snack that's on sale for the whole month.
Okay, I love that because I have 3 kids and that would cut down on a lot of fights, I think. So that would be good anyway. I like that. Another thing, I think everybody knows this, but we talk about it all the time. Is one thing is to shop on a full belly. Don't go to the grocery store while you're hungry. This makes a really big difference because especially if you're trying to stick to a list, if you're hungry, you're going to go for those impulse snacks like, ooh, that looks delicious, right? So anything you can do to make sure you don't go to the store hungry is a good thing. Even emergency stuff too, right, Kelly? You have a
yep. I got granola bars in my glove box, Cliff bars, which aren't my favorite, but they get me through. And my husband loves them, so they're there. We buy them when they're on sale. We stock up. That's another thing, stocking up on things when they are on sale. If you know you're going to buy them when you run out, might as well get extra, right? While you're at the store, that can make a big difference too. But yeah.
I like what, the Dark Penguins 227. This is great. So generic Frosted Flakes are amazing. Generic Lucky Charms, not so much. Just try it. There you go.
I believe that those marshmallows, man, you can't. No one could make an imitation of the perfect little nuggets of amazingness.
Yeah, there's a difference between marshmallow things and then
cardboard. Cardboard.
I wasn't gonna say it, Kelly, but one's not too hard to mess up. So
I like this tip too from Sandra. Growing the food that you use the most often. Totally, herbs on the windowsill. Yeah, it doesn't matter how big your house is. You can have a small pot of mint or basil on your windowsill. Like there's ways to work that in if it's important to you, for sure. I love that.
Jesse was just talking about this on the podcast day before yesterday about canning a bunch of tomatoes because he said he planted way too many tomatoes and it sounded like he had a truckload. So you can have fun with that. He
had a very prolific garden this year.
It's good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
This is a good question from Dan. So what sorts of techniques do you guys use to follow sales? Yeah, what do you have going on that?
Yeah, so I get the Daily Press printed twice weekly in our town, and so on Fridays we get the sales for the weekend, and so I like to, and we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but maybe we talk about planning and lists now. Might as well.
Sure, might as well.
So I get the sale insert right to my mailbox, and I sit down and I decide what we're going to be cooking that week based off of what produce is on sale or what proteins are on sale that week. And then I just think about, or I look and see what we already have, and I decide what I'm in the mood for. Maybe I want to try a new recipe. But I usually plan them based on that. But you don't have to get a printed newspaper for that. There is a really helpful app called Flip that you can download. That will give you the local stores that you have the sales right to your phone, which is really convenient.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't actually know about that. Yeah, and there's in like most stores will have apps that do this too. Like the Kroger app, we use that for hearing about sales, and they'll list that every week.
Mhm.
All sorts of things you can do for that. What else? So yeah, we're talking about meal planning. I think this is kind of the key to saving money on groceries and eating out too. This we're all about budgeting, making a plan for your money, and so you make a plan for your meals too. And I think that's absolutely huge. So what you need to do really every week or every 2 weeks or however often you want to shop, make a plan for the food you're going to eat in the coming week. And it doesn't have to be really complicated. Like it doesn't have to be every meal. That's one thing. Usually you're just planning dinners because breakfast and lunch could usually be about the same every week, or maybe you cycle through a couple things. But the big plan is going to be the dinners. And it doesn't even have to be every day either. Consider leftovers. That's important. And then maybe once a week you have like for example, on Saturdays, that's pizza night for us. We do a frozen pizza. Actually, we
Taco
started making
Tuesday.
our own. We started making our own pizza. It's actually pretty fun,
Yay.
but it's still easy, So
Taco
yeah, Taco
Tuesday.
Tuesday. That's
Yeah.
a good one. Yeah.
Which I mentioned last week. Taco Tuesday for us is just leftover Monday shoved into
There
a
you go.
taco. Because you can taco almost anything is what we decided,
I love
except
it.
spaghetti. Spaghetti does not taco.
It does not taco. But maybe you'll like it. I don't know. Try it.
The other thing too that we probably should have said this at the beginning is that this is about you finding ways to cut money in ways that make sense to you. If you do enjoy different breakfast every day, different lunch every day, there is nothing wrong with that, because a budget allows us to align our money with the things that matter most to us. And if going out to eat all the time is important to you, then that's how you budget your money. This workshop is just around ways to cut back in those areas. So that's why we're mostly sharing those kinds of tips here.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and I think that Takeout Thursday, there says Brooke. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we have a takeout day every week too, and sometimes we do other things. Taco, almost new item merch. There you go, Conyer.
Oh, that's
anything can be a taco, guys. If you believe enough, you can make it happen.
Yep, definitely. So there are also resources that you can use when you're meal planning to make it a lot easier. Ben, you use Paprika, right?
Yeah, we do. Paprika is awesome because you can put in all your recipes that you have on hand, but you can even import recipes from websites really well. And so you have basically all these meals that are all together in a nice little database for you. And then when you're meal planning, you can literally just pick off the meals from a list.
It's amazing.
It's
your recipe box is what it's called, which is so cute. I mean, it's exactly what it is. And like my mom and I share a Paprika account. So when she adds a recipe, she can make notes, she can put stars. We organize them into like Instant Pot, Asian, Indian, quick, healthy. Like we've got all these different boxes that we keep our recipes in. So great option.
It's really great for communication between partners too, because my wife does most of the meal planning, but so she puts it all in Paprika with paprika, whatever you call it. Paprika. I always say it wrong. Paprika, and it's nice because I don't have to be like, honey, what's for dinner? I don't have to bother with that. I can just look at it. Just look, and
that's amazing.
Yeah,
and I know that Plan to Eat is another one that does that too. Yeah, we can show the names when we.
There you go. Ooh, very clever. Yeah. We're enjoying this. And by the way, we're going to post a link to a handout for you guys. We have all this info for you. So check back afterwards. We'll be sure to post that. What else? What other kinds of things do you use for meal planning? Meal Lime, which I love the name of that. That's another one that a lot of folks enjoy. One. I haven't tried that myself, but a lot of folks.
I bounced between that and Paprika for a while, and then I ended up sticking to Paprika. And let's just put the link. I'll put the link to that handout in the chat there, so you guys have access to it. Awesome. It kind of goes over what we cover in this workshop.
Yeah, lots of other great websites. There's several good subreddits. Like you guys should check out Meal Prep Sunday, which shows you how to not just do the meal planning, but also prep your meals ahead of time.
Mhm.
So if you're a really busy person, but you want to eat healthy and you want to be able to cook more, this is a really good way to do it. Eat cheap and healthy is just exactly what it sounds like. That's
I
another
like that one.
subreddit
A lot of
you could check
college,
out.
a lot of college kids on that one.
Yeah, it's good. And then of course there's tons of great sites out there for finding recipes.
Yeah.
Budgetbites.com is it's definitely a personal favorite among the YNAB team. Lots of good ones though. So definitely check.
Yeah, and those are all the links to those are on that handout I just put in the chat there, guys. And then if you're watching later, it should be in the description.
Yeah. But what the beauty of meal planning is when it kind of optimizes everything for when you go shopping, because you know exactly what you want, because you can know what you need to get for all the meals you want to make, and you can make a list, and a shopping list is everything for shopping.
Yeah, and then on top of that, only buying what is on the list.
Right.
And then the next key is making the meal that you planned with items that were on the list.
Right. But you do need to be flexible too, right? Like, I don't think we talked about emergency meals. This is a really helpful tip because we make the plan, right? We budget the money, we make a budget, but we also have rule 3, which is a big part of the YNAB method, which is roll with the punches. And so we need a rule 3 for our meal plans as well. We need a way to be flexible. And one way to do that is to create some emergency meals for yourself. An emergency meal is something that is easy to make. It's something that you look forward to. Like, it's something that you really want to eat that's really yummy. And then it has to beat the cost of getting takeout. So that could be a frozen pizza. That's probably what I would go to for me. It could be something that you prep ahead of time.
Like I'll make a huge batch of chili, and then I freeze it in like used jars, like old salsa or pasta jars. I freeze it with just about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of head space on top so that the jar doesn't break when it freezes. And then I can take a jar of chili or a jar of pulled pork, a jar of yellow rice, a jar of black beans, put them in the Instant Pot with a cup of water, and I've got dinner in 20 minutes that tastes like I was cooking all day for it. So those are some of my favorite go-to batch cooking emergency meals.
Yeah, let folks know in the comments, like, what's your emergency meal? If you
go to,
because we're all gonna have a bad day. Maybe we plan to make, I don't know, something amazing that evening, and then we just can't. We don't have the energy for it. We don't have the time to make it. But you don't want to get takeout to try to save money. That's the way to go for sure. So we talked about lists. Another thing is really knowing what you're actually going to spend before you walk into the store. I think that's huge. And if you have a shopping list, you can do this.
It's so much easier to figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, literally, if you want to get real nerdy with it, you can use a calculator there at the grocery store, maybe just for a little while if you want.
Yeah. Or to get simple, a simpler option is if you have grocery pickup in your area, then you'll know what it's going to be. The total is going to be thereabouts before you even actually pay. And so you'll know if it's within your budget. You'll have only bought the things on your list because you won't have the temptations of all that stuff in the aisle staring at you. And you will have all the things you need for your meal plan. Super handy.
Yeah, it makes a big difference to kind of not just plan what you're going to buy, but plan the price out and make sure it's in your budget before you shop. And that can be huge. I love shopping online. I mean, in the 2020 times, we started doing that a lot more. And I don't know, I don't think I can go back, especially with kids in the car and stuff. It's just like it's so
convenient.
To pick up.
Yeah. I'll usually place my order in the morning, and then I pick it up as soon as I'm done with work, and without having to step in the store is magical. It's just magical.
Awesome. Well, let's see. Do we want to talk about anything else about food, or should we move on to some other topics?
Some good emergency meals came through. Stouffer's frozen meals,
nice. Okay.
Ramen, burgers, a lot of burgers, nice. Frozen pizza. I love any of those Trader Joe's frozen meals. I think that they are so easy. You just pop them in the microwave or on the stovetop or in the oven. Delicious.
Spanish tortillas at Telly. There you go.
Yum.
You make tacos, whatever you need to do. Love it. Okay.
You can taco anything. Here's a good tip. I use Grocery IQ. You create a list and add the pricing, check it off, and you're in the store.
Oh,
It's
okay.
kind of similar to your strategy, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, I kind of do that, but with a spreadsheet. And I would love to have an app that does it because it's a little finicky to use like Google Sheets for this. But yeah, that's what we do. My wife is like wicked good at predicting prices. She has a mind for it. I do not. And when we make our list, she puts the price she expects it to be. And if it's
Mhm.
more, we put like a plus 50 cents or whatever on each item as we're shopping. And then we have a number at the end that says, hey, you're about to spend $10 more than you thought, and say, okay, we'll put something back. Or maybe you're $10 under, we can go buy the fancy cheese, like whatever it is. So you can kind of predict what you're going to actually spend before you go to the cash register.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's fun. Again, a lot easier if you're shopping online. So there is that.
Thanks for that suggestion, Chips. I just added that to our list. That'll be on the handout next week.
Nice. Next time we do this here. All right. Well, we talked about food an awful lot, which, usually when we talk about cutting spending, we talk about food for a while because that's really a big area. But there's other things in life too. So why don't we move on to just saving money on some regular bills and things like that?
Yeah. Let's start with subscriptions because I feel like that's an easy win in terms of like looking for places to cut back. Once you start budgeting and you're tracking every dollar, it's going to be really clear where those dollars are going. If you're not there just yet, if you could take a look at past, statements and things and look at what you've already paid for in terms of subscriptions. But I think it's perfectly acceptable to question those subscriptions as soon as you pay for them as well. Like maybe you forgot about it, you get that auto renewal show up and you're like, is there really value in this? And if there isn't, then that's one way that you can look to cut back. And you don't have to get rid of all of them, right? Like I happen to have a running app and a personal trainer workout app, both on my phone at the same time. And I wasn't really using one of them. And so I went into, if you have an iPhone, you can go into the subscriptions section of your iTunes account and see everything you're subscribed for. And it was really easy for me just to kind of go down the list and remove the ones like Duolingo I haven't used in like 6 months. And so.
Right. Yeah. And I think sometimes some of these services kind of count on people, signing up and forgetting about it sometimes. Yeah. So don't be that person. You can save some money there for sure.
Yeah, good point again, that you can just let them know and they'll give you your money back a lot of times.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Most companies, they don't want you to, keep using something if you're not using it. So if you ask, they'll refund you for sure most of the time. Another big thing that I think a lot of people don't really consider is to negotiate your bills. Because I think a lot of times we just kind of take our bills as face value and we can't change it. And that's sometimes true. But often you can call your cable company or even a credit card company. Maybe if you have some credit card debt and you want to see if you can reduce the interest rate on your card, sometimes you can do that just with one phone call, or sometimes multiple phone calls and a little bit of persistence, you can make it happen. So try that. Ask for lower interest rates. Call your cable company, see if you can, get internet for cheaper. There's all sorts of things.
Tip I saw recently about that, depending on how tenacious you are, I guess is really what it comes down to. Calling back at different times of the day or contacting a company in different ways, like over chat versus over the phone, and asking the same thing in multiple. Sometimes you get lucky one way more than others, or you get the right person, which I think is kind of interesting, is being thrifty.
You need to get the person with the power to do it and the willingness to do it, and you can make it happen. So.
Or with a will that's easy to bend.
Kelly's good at this kind of thing. I'm not so good at it. I'm too nice.
Utilities. That's an easy win sometimes. I mean, something as simple as changing the temperature. I went through my, we have a Nest thermometers that control the different zones of our house. And I went through and lowered everything a few degrees the last week to see how cold is comfortable for us. Because I work from home alone most of the day. I'm in just this one room. And so I have a little space heater in there. So I dropped the rest of the house like 5 degrees and I haven't really been bothered.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I was going to say if you're working from home and especially if you're by yourself in the home most of the time, space heater is a way to go. That's good. Well, let's move on to our next topic. which is saving money on cars. Yeah. Because this is, probably, it's one of the biggest expenses in our lives
It
up
is.
front.
Cars cost so much more than just a car payment if you've got
Mhm.
one. They're yearly bills like insurance and registration, and then there's monthly bills like gas and like maintenance that goes along with them. Not to mention the next car that you'll have to pay for eventually, right? So that's a forever expense if you live in a place with a
Right.
car. So thinking about those things before you commit to a car is a good way to save money for sure. Like deciding
Yeah.
not to.
Yeah. I think that's key, is just realizing, if you are paying on a car payment, your car costs a lot more than that. And I think we all know that, but sometimes we don't consider it. I remember last week somebody said every 4 months you should call your car insurance company and try to get a lower rate. I thought that was interesting. I've been guilty of that. I think I've been with the same company doing car insurance for, gosh, like 13 or 15 years probably here.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever tried to I just kind of accepted what price they give me. So yeah, I think I could do better to try to cut that back a little bit.
Also considering the amount of coverage you have based on the value of your car. Like if
Yeah,
you've got a
that's huge.
15-year-old car, like do you really need collision? Because like if the price you're paying on that to replace the car that isn't worth that much to begin with might not be worth keeping versus just self-insuring and saving that money for the next
Mhm.
car. So those are
Or
the
even a higher deductible if you can afford it. Like if you've been using YNAB and you've been budgeting and you have some space in your budget, you might be able to afford to have a higher deductible. And
because like this actually
save
happened to
money.
us. We went from a $500 to $1,000 deductible, and it changed our rate by like $75 a month. So you figure that's
Wow,
almost $800 a year. That's our deductible. If we
you
just
got it.
save that
Yeah.
money for 1 year, we could save thousands of dollars if we don't end up using it, and we haven't.
That's awesome. Yeah. So that's a good example. Yeah, and I think that's the way to do the analysis is, okay, how long would it take for me to save up my deductible with the money that I saved? And if it's less than a year, like for you, then go for it.
Right.
That's huge. Yeah. And another thing is shop mechanics for rates. I think that's huge too. Any good mechanic will call you before they do anything crazy on your car,
Mhm.
and it's okay to say, I'm going to think about that and get back to you.
Definitely.
You don't just have to accept it. And have maybe a few mechanics that you can speak to once you hear what the problem is, and they might be able to give you an idea. And then you come back to that mechanic and maybe negotiate a little bit. I think it's really important.
Yeah, and if you know what's wrong with the car, there's nothing wrong with pausing for a minute, calling around with that diagnosis and asking
Uh-huh.
what because most any reputable mechanic is going to know what it costs to like what the competitors are going to like charge you for that type of thing. And so and once you have that relationship with your mechanic, I feel like you don't have to worry about that quite as much, which is really nice.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah. If
matter
you
of
find a mechanic you can trust that makes that you hang on to that. That's a big deal.
that is worth like an extra $50 here and there for sure, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, I've done that. I have a mechanic who is a great mechanic and he gets tons of customers and he's raised his prices because he gets tons of customers, but I don't even care. So there is something to consider there. It might be worth
Mhm.
paying a little extra for a good mechanic.
I like Christian's tip here about fixing the car yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What a novel concept, right? Because that used to be the only way to fix your car. I feel like
True.
these days I know it can be harder with all the computers and stuff that are in cars, but there are definitely still things that we can do ourselves if you've got a little bit of get a little elbow grease. Don't be afraid, and watch the YouTube video to see how it's done. That'll give you a really good gauge on if it's something you're comfortable with or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all got like a million dads in our pocket on YouTube, basically. So
Yeah.
basically what it's like.
So amazing that you can we had a 1995 Honda Accord it was my brother's first car, my first car. It ended up being my husband's car for several years.
Hmm.
That thing, it went from Florida to Minnesota, but we would search very specific 1995 Honda Accord, radiator replacement, broken right side fan hose or something. And it would,
Wow.
that video would appear. Somebody
Love it.
filmed that video on that car for me to watch. Thank you. It's amazing.
It's really great. It's really great. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's kind of sweet and nice. And another thing is to consider a cheaper car or even go down to one car. This is a big change. Kelly and I kind of have competing experiences on this about going down to one car. Do you want to tell about how you tried that?
Yeah, I'll go first. So last week we had you guys guess who wouldn't tolerate one car and who would.
Yeah.
It's obvious this week though. So my husband, our car was in the shop. One of them was, my husband doesn't work that far away, so he was taking the car to work every day. I would have driven him if I had needed it. But like, I hated the restriction I felt from just not having the option of being able to drive in the car
Right.
when I wanted to, of wondering exactly when he was going to be home, because it doesn't really have fixed hours. And I found that just 2 weeks of dealing with this was enough to prove that we need to have two forms of communication, or he needs to walk to work or something. It just didn't work for our family.
Yeah, but it worked really well for my family. We had two cars. My wife and I, we had two cars for a long time, and then one of the cars kicked the bucket. It was a 95 Toyota Camry. It was very old. It had a good long life, but it was getting weird for a while there, though.
Yeah.
Like
You were
we couldn't
worried
take
about
it.
it?
Well, I mean, just some quirks, like if we drove too long, it might catch on fire because of oil leaks, stuff like that. No big
You
deal.
were questioning which children to allow to ride in it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, who do we like the most? I don't know. But it finally did. We did a state inspection and it was just done. We're like, okay, well, when we didn't want to immediately go out and buy a car because we didn't have the money for it. We didn't want to borrow for it. So we said, okay, well, we're going to take, maybe a year or 10 months or so to save up for a new to us used car. And so we started saving, and we got to where we had enough about 10 months in to start shopping a little bit. But once we got to where we were ready to start looking into new cars, we were like, you know what? We've been going 10 months and we really don't need it. So now we just have one car. My wife and I both work from home. We always have, even before the pandemic. So it's not really necessary for us. Yeah, Uber versus second car. I mean, if that's an option for you, it might be worth it.
Yeah.
You could do the cost analysis on that, like, how much am I spending on a car versus how much am I spending on ride sharing,
Mhm.
But yeah, just look into it. Consider it as an option because I think it could make a big difference. Yeah, we were able to use that money on something else, and it's pretty nice. The only time it's really annoying is when our car is in the shop. That's when it gets a little bit wonky.
That sounds like we have family nearby, right? You have all their other alternatives.
Yeah. I have some folks that can help me, so that helps a lot.
I like Connor's one car.
Love it, Kanye. Yes.
Sandra's got a good point here. Bike or walk when you can. Even if you have two cars, you can still save money on them by not using them as much because they'll last longer.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah.
Also, hi, Katrina. Cool. Good to see you again. I see there's actually some faces. Yeah. I was just on Facebook Live an hour ago doing some workshops. So welcome you that were hanging out with there. Kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I love that. I love seeing the same folks keep joining us around.
All
right. Well, I think we've talked about. I think we've run the cars into the wall. So why don't we move on to save money around the house?
So it is easier than ever to sell stuff these days. Mm-hmm. And I think that applies to saving money around the house because money that you earn is more money you have to spend or not. That's not how that saying goes.
I get what you mean.
You guys know what I meant, right? Like, yeah, every dollar you don't spend is money that you don't have to earn, but it works the other way too. And so look around the house, and those little things that you find that you don't use might have value to them. And I talked a little bit about this before too, but for some reason, I struggle giving my clothes away. I find that I have a personal connection to them, and I think I might possibly need this neon green T-shirt someday in the future. But I found that if instead of making a donation pile, I just make a sell pile. This is a pile of stuff I'm going to sell, and I give myself 6 months. I put a Post-it with the date on the pile thing of hangers. And I give myself 6 months to sell whatever I can or want to or have the energy to list. And after 6 months, if I haven't sold it and I haven't worn it, it gets donated. Nice. So I found that that's a good way to kind of get rid of some of the clutter too.
Yeah, I like that. Um, Another, this is a big thing, so it's not going to be for everyone. But if you have a really big goal, financial goal, and maybe you've cut at spending as much as you can, you might actually need to consider downsizing your home. Maybe you bought more house than you need, or you've rented a bigger place than you need. Uh, Ask yourself, am I really using all of this space? And if the answer is no, you might consider next time it's convenient to move, or maybe even sooner, um, to move around a little bit and make a change.
Also,
That could
with how
mean,
much we pay for our housing, it kind of dominoes into other things we pay for too, like the size of our
yeah,
house in our utility bills, or our access to public transport, so we're not taking our cars, or our access to family so they can babysit, so we're not paying for a nanny. Like those
oh,
are all
yeah,
kinds of.
that's huge. That's absolutely huge. Yeah, I mean, it's not just the cost of the house itself. It's all of the things you said, and your utilities and everything. I mean, maybe even taxes too is another big thing to consider. Maybe you could move out of the city a little bit, maybe cut back on that, but then you'd have higher commuting costs. So you got to consider all these things, right? But all of it adds up really fast. So. Another thing you can do, just as far as the stuff around the house, is try to borrow or even rent things, and like especially things that are like equipment that you need for yard work and stuff like that you don't need year round. Instead of buying those things, you might try to borrow it. In fact, I did this. I remember a while back, I really wanted a chainsaw because I have like 2.5 acres of like forest behind my back, behind my house, and we have trees that fall, and I like to cut it up for firewood. And so I started putting money in a category, or I created a category for it, and it didn't get any money because I kind of realized, I didn't really value it as much as I thought I did. And I was telling a buddy about this, and he was like, "Oh, also, you got to get some chaps so you don't cut your legs off, because they're dangerous." And it started getting more expensive, and I was just like, I was frustrated. And he was like, "Well, you know what?" He's like, "I know you have like a really nice like backpack leaf blower, and I have a chainsaw. So how about you can borrow my chainsaw anytime you want, and I can borrow my leaf blower anytime I want." And we're like, "Sweet." He
Cool.
lives like right down the road from me, and so we do that, and we swap all
Crazy.
the time. And so you could do stuff like that with your neighbors or your friends.
There's
I
also
see no reason why
community
every single
tool.
person.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what do they call it? Community tool libraries, I think is what they're
Hmm.
called. Check your
Yeah.
community out. See if they have something like that. There's a I was living in Duluth, Minnesota not too long ago, and we had a workshop that's community sponsored. And you could go in and use their jigsaws and their circular saws and their like
Nice.
all kinds of tools, yeah, to work on your projects. You just pay a small fee each month that you want to use it.
That's super
So
cool.
yeah,
I love
we don't
that.
need to all
Yeah.
have one each, right? We
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about that when I'm like on a walk or something. I see people, pushing their mowers around. And I'm like, does my whole street really need every single person need their own lawnmower or something? I mean,
Mhm.
could we work something out? I mean, if you know your neighbors, you might be able to make that happen. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Good question here from Conyer. Like, where should we list stuff and sell stuff? And so I dropped a
Okay.
few in there. Poshmark, ThreadUp, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. Those are all great
Mhm.
places to sell clothing or items that you have around the house. Just depending on how active your community is on those different networks.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. There might even be something more specific to your town. Like
Mhm.
there's a college in my town and there's a whole group just for people at that college trading clothes. And so you could maybe there's something like that. I mean, it's associated with that college, but anybody does it. So my wife sells clothes on there all the time. So there's things like that you can do. Just look around on Facebook or wherever.
Good tip here from Bethany. We funded all of the repairs on the home we just sold by selling
Wow.
things. That's amazing.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's huge because those things can get expensive really quick.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Community tool shed said Conyer. That's a good. Maybe that's something
Mhm.
you could search if you're looking for something like that.
Miranda said made $50 just on some kid stuff. Oh, we put the
Nice.
flea in her ear.
Oh, we did it. No
Miranda,
kidding.
Ben.
Way to go, Miranda. I love it. That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, Bethany says love selling on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, it's a really good service. So if you're on Facebook anyway, you might check that out.
Some people get a little uncomfortable with meeting strangers, and you don't have to sell these things from your home. You guys, you could meet them in a public place at a park or in a Walmart
Yeah.
parking lot or a grocery store, wherever, someplace that you are comfortable. Make sure someone knows where you are or you're with somebody when you do this kind of stuff. So be smart. But
Mhm.
I will, and also trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably because it's not. And don't be afraid to just decide to walk away from. If it feels too good to be true, probably
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, just be smart about it. I mean, some towns will even have like in a parking lot in a grocery store or something, they'll have like a designated area for online sales. And
Really
so, yeah, I've seen that in my town.
cool.
There's a couple of places like that, and it's really helpful because you can set up a place where everybody knows to go, and it's public, and it's not to
I love
worry
that.
about. Yeah.
Good tip here from Elena too about checking your library for stuff to rent, or they probably know where you could get those things from. Your librarians are an amazing resource that know far more than just about books.
Yeah.
Use those resources if you've got them for sure.
My library has something interesting. There's like a little like discovery science place for kids in my town, and it's awesome. It's like the best place ever. And they will rent out like a subscription because you pay like yearly if you want to go there anytime. Like the library will actually let people take out the right to go to that place. It's kind of cool. Yeah. So libraries are more than just books. They have all sorts of things that you can check out. So definitely look into that.
Bunch of people just wrote over that a great place to meet strangers is in the police station parking lot.
Yes, that's the best place. It'd be hard to pull something off there.
Definitely.
That's good. I love Bethany says my local library had cake pans and kitchen tools. Look at that. So all sorts of things.
So
that they might have
fun.
for you. Cool.
I tried to find a juicer to borrow. Like I was on the fence about buying a juicer. It was all the rage, and I was like, I like juice.
Mhm.
And I really wanted to borrow one before I bought one because they're expensive. And I asked my Facebook friends first, and then ended up someone told a friend of a friend, and they let me borrow theirs for a couple weeks. I didn't buy a juicer.
Nice.
So that saved me the price of a juicer.
There you go. It works. Yeah, I think it's helpful. If you're not sure you want to buy something, just start complaining about it to your friends, and maybe one of them will help you out. Actually, I literally just did this. I was like complaining to a friend because I needed to get a dishwasher installed because I'm not very handy at all. So I was like, and I had to get a new dishwasher. Anyways, long story. And I was like complaining about it because like I had to wait to get it for the person to have time to come in, and he was just like, "I can do it." He's like, "I'll do it for you tomorrow," and he did, and he came, and he didn't charge me. I made him some cookies, So yeah,
cookies are an excellent trade for hard work. Yes, that's wonderful.
Good. He's a good friend. So that's the same friend that I borrow the chainsaw from all the time. So there you go. I guess I complain to him a lot.
Awesome. All right. And then lastly, we should talk about, it's important to remember why you're trying to save money or earn more money, right? We should think about that reason, because we don't just try to never spend money. We don't just try to make as much as possible without having that purpose. And that's our why, whether it's reaching specific goals with your family, whether it's reaching specific career goals, all those things are connected. And so it's so much more than just about the balance of your bank account. It's about helping you reach those goals. And that's what a budget allows us to do, is identify what our priorities are and then get creative on finding ways to reach them. So it's always important to fall back to that question of, why am I doing this? What is my goal here? What is my purpose? And usually your budget can help steer you towards that as well.
Yeah, well said. Because if you're not motivated to do this, then you're not going to do it. And I think that's absolutely key. Another thing too is if cutting something back is actually going to make you more stressed, if that's like financially or maybe in time or something else, that's probably not a good place to start. Start with the easy wins, and you can do anything for a short period of time. Maybe you do something a little bit stressful, a little bit crazy for a couple months, but just be sure to consider your mental health and everything too when you're cutting back. And
If it's a means to an end, that's different than being stressed or unhappy just for the sake of something that has no purpose. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you might find that you are willing to endure a little pain for a little while for something really worthwhile. So
Yeah.
that's good. All right. Well, I'll look through the comments to see if there's anything else. Dan says borrowing the chainsaw sounds sketchy. Yes, it does, Dan. That is true.
I just put the handout up on the screen. I'll put the what's your why away, Ben.
Let me get rid of that.
We're still figuring this stuff out, guys. So this is the handout. The link is in the chats, or it'll be down below if you're watching this later. But it lists most of the things that we discussed in this hangout, so you can access those resources there.
Yep, so that'll be in the chat, and we'll put that in the description once the video, the recording of this is live.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to learn more about YNAB, if you want to try out our software, just learn more about budgeting in general, go to our website, youneedbudget.com, or check out our YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube here, you can definitely learn a lot about anything you want to learn about around money there. And if you are interested in signing up for our software, we have a 34-day free trial, and there you can sign up. Another place you can go to learn about budgeting and setting up your budget or ways to cut spending like this is our workshops. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Kelly?
Yeah, our workshops are free. They're 20 minutes long. They're live. They are every single day. We have 6 incredible teachers, 7.
Teachers everywhere.
And they're going to take really good care of you. Also, our customer support team is amazing. If you have questions that are very specific to your budget, just send a message to help@ynap.com, and our customer support team will take really good care of you there too. But you can ask live questions in our live workshops.
Yeah.
Maybe you can hang out with Ben or I.
Yeah, let's see. Never know who's going to show up. All right, guys. So it's been really fun chatting with you. If you have any comments after the fact, go ahead and send those over, and we'll compile a good list right here in the comments section of tips and ideas on saving money.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you guys. Thanks.
Bye.